understanding about digesting meat is really important, because if we don't digest it properly, then it can become a major gut issue, and does for a lot of older people. The critical thing here, first of all, is this is not a debate on it. Should you be a carnivore, an omnivore, a vegan, or a vegetarian? This is not that. It's about how do we improve digestion for those people who have made the choices. And it's not about the good or the bad of either of those. That is another video that's coming. The message here, though, is we need to improve the digestion of meats for the people who do. And the reason is because it breaks it into smaller particles, little chunks, then into peptides. And these peptides already start working around the body. They help lower hypertension, for example. They help with metabolic syndrome, lots of things around the body that they do that are really effective. And then they're broken into amino acids. And these amino acids literally are the building blocks of everything that we do. These are building blocks of your bone, building blocks of your skin, or the collagen. They're made out of 2 amino acids plus vitamin C and so on, and so that goes to your bone and joints and all those things. So we have to make sure that we get these amino acids, your serotonin for feeling good, melatonin for sleeping, your neurotransmitters that tell you to do things around the body. Everything runs on these working molecules called amino acids. So we have to make sure we get them. There's 22 that classified as we need them, and 9 that are essential we have to get in our food. And meat is a fantastic source of the vast majority of these, if you're digesting. And the reason we can't digest some of this at some stage is, one, evolutionary. We're not great meat eaters. Okay, my view on it is we are what I would call opportunistic eaters. We ate meat, we ate fish, we ate whatever was around as we traveled around the globe for the last 3 million years or 50,000 years for the traveling around and so on. So from an evolutionary perspective, we can digest it, but it's a bit harder. And it becomes hard because you cook it and you process it, and then that even becomes harder again. Aging, as we age, we lose some of our capacity for hydrochloric acid in our stomach and enzymes. And as a result, we find it a bit harder to digest meats. And I've noticed this in the talks I've done so many times around the place, that older people tend to eat less meat because it's harder to digest. And this leads to reflux and a whole raft of other conditions out there, which is, by the way, why you need to check out the other videos I've got on reflux and gut. We've got dozens of videos on healthy gut. And this all taps into this. So subscribe below, share it with your friends, get this information out there. So we're here, aging, poor gut health, and that's characteristic of the 21st century. So many people have poor gut health. In fact, I find it a lot easier finding people with poor gut health than anyone with good gut health. It's something you need to focus on. And with poor gut health, you find it becomes harder to digest. Again, the reflux, the SIBO, the IBS, the IBD, and all these conditions feed in and loop back on each other. Pharmaceuticals are a major player in there. People don't realize the proton pump inhibitors for acid reflux, antibiotics, even the ones, a lot of the drugs they use for depression, the opioids, for example, for pain and so on. All of those lead to a difficulty in digesting, and then we've got that leads to inflammation, and that leads to further illnesses, and it links all around there. So the critical thing is we have to get digestion right, and we can make it simpler. And the way we make it simpler, really easy, is in pre-digesting. And the aged way of doing it is literally aging meat. See, everything raw comes with its own enzymes to digest itself. The plants, the fish, the chicken, the meat, the red meat. So as a result, aging it, and there are some restaurants around the place, very expensive restaurants, that age meat for weeks, months, and even years. And it's so tender, it just melts in the mouth because the enzymes are constantly breaking it down. Wow, that's fantastic. That's easy, isn't it? Well, you don't have time to do that. You go to the supermarket, so how can we speed it up? Well, physically tenderizing, bashing the meat. It doesn't matter if it's chicken. So before it's cooked, you bash it a little bit more, and it releases the cathepsin and other enzymes. But cathepsin is the enzyme that breaks down the meat, and it starts to pre-digest it. And the more you do it, the softer and more tender it gets. It's not getting tender because you're kind of physically chemically, you're setting off the enzymes to break it down. And that's why mince is such an easy food to digest, as long as it doesn't have the nitrites and other colors and additives in there to affect it. So these actually poison the gut. So you've got to get fresh mince, no nitrites, no preservatives added, and as a result, it's the easiest one to digest because all the enzymes are working away, already breaking it down. Now, if we want to improve that even further, you can marinate it. So all of the marinades through time, for thousands of years we use marinades, and they all have digestive enzymes in them. They're fermented foods in particular, things like soya vinegar and yogurt, but lots of things, any of these foods that are used in marinades typically have enzymes. If you squeeze lemon on, it's got the enzymes from the lemon which will help digest it as well. So it's a win-win situation. And then you've got papaya and pineapple, which are rich in enzymes. Lots of fruits are rich in enzymes, and figs and oranges and lemons and all those things. So they come in handy there. And they start to pre-digest it with the enzymes from the food itself that you're adding onto it. Then you've got a broth. Now, the broth doesn't chemically digest it, but physically it breaks it into really small particles for your digestive system, your stomach to say, oh, thank you. Wow, this is so easy to digest. It's all broken down into small particles because this broth or bone broth, which is really typically a really good food for healing the gut because it's pre-digested already, well, pre-broken down already, and your digestive enzymes come along and find it easier to access and break it down. Now, another trick is bicarbonate, and that works on a totally different way because bicarbonate tenderizes meat. And all the chefs use it. It's called velveting. And they sprinkle a little bit of sodium bicarbonate on top of it. And it's not to change the, you're going to have a alkaline in your diet or something. It's actually, it stops the proteins binding together to make more complex molecules so that when you cook it, it's still just the protein. When you cook foods, they bind together and become harder to digest. The more you cook, the harder it is. Like if you have a burnt steak on a barbecue, it's almost impossible to digest, okay? Not to mention the toxins from the black part of the burnt and so on. However, what you want to do, the sodium bicarb, keeps those proteins free and much more easily digested in our stomach. Chewing, slowly, and breathing. Why? Chewing sends, first of all, whenever you smell, see, chew, all of those set off the mechanisms, first of all, saliva, which doesn't help much with protein digestion, but it sets off all of the mechanisms right through your digestive system, say food's coming, you're chewing. And a little handy hint, have you ever noticed that when you chew about half an hour, you'll go to the toilet? It's not because the food's gone through, it's because it's sending messages down there. And that's how it works. So the more you chew it, the better messages can be sent down. The more you chew it, the smaller particles that can be broken up. So you take your time and you chew. You chew slowly because that enables your digestive system to catch up to the food that you're eating. You rush it down, by the time it's gone into your stomach, it says, oh okay, food's on the way, what do I do now? Whereas when you chew slowly, if you like food, if you love food, and everyone tells me they do, eat slowly. And then breathing. Now, breathing initiates what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, the quiet, the relaxed nervous, the calm nervous system. And that's when your body's able to digest better. That's when it able to produce more hydrochloric acid and enzymes all the way through your digestive system. So by relaxing your system and a couple of deep breaths before, during, and even at the end of it, enables your digestive system to actually function at its best. Everything relies on the nervous system for coordination and digestion. And then we've got the chewing, breathing slowly, and then we've got the stomach. And the stomach produces primarily hydrochloric acid and pepsin. And these are great for digesting protein. The pepsin has to work in an acid environment. The hydrochloric acid provides the acid level for the pepsin to work effectively. Unless you take drugs or unless you've eaten a huge meal, you've overwhelmed it. In that case, check out my videos on reflux and generally on gut health and SIBO, because unless you look after your gut, it will stop looking after you. So these are released automatically as soon as you start chewing, and as soon as all these receptors all the way down your digestive system, oh, some protein's coming. I better start producing more hydrochloric acid and pepsin. So it goes through there, then it goes into the small intestine straight after. And the small intestine, just behind the stomach, is a little organ called pancreas. And the pancreas, apart from regulating so many things around the body like insulin and blood sugar levels and hormones that go around the body, it also releases the enzymes to digest fats, carbohydrates and proteins. So we've got to make sure that's not overwhelmed, and we do that by doing all these other things. So when you've done these, your body says, thank you. It's easier to digest. I can do it properly now. And so your small intestine, and then it goes into the large intestine where the microbiome starts to break it down. Now, if it's not broken down properly, it ferments it into quite toxic products. And as a result, there are some really nasty gases and smells that might come as a result of it, but also higher levels of inflammation. So what you want to do is get all the digestion going perfectly here, which, by the way, may involve some supplements with hydrochloric acid and some proteases and pepsin and other things along the way. And that I cover in the videos that I've got on digestion and enzymes. So make sure you subscribe and check those videos out as well. And so the microbes will literally start to ferment it. Too much fermentation, because it's not broken down, you end up with more gut problems. A little bit is absolutely perfect. And that's where probiotics, supplementing with probiotics, can actually help with meat digestion as well. So the picture here is, if you're a meat eater, fantastic. Okay, lots of nutrients, marvelous, but you've got to make sure you get them out. And this is the way that you can improve it. Check out the other videos I've got here on gut health and digestion, and let's get this message out there.